I never had goals of being a bodybuilder. I just really liked working out and running, and I love lifting weights, and I really love difficult training, and I love martial arts now too. If I could train 36 hours a day, I would. Um, when I was in a silent contemplative monastery in my 20s, I went there to clear my mind, to get rid of all the negative attachments, negative influences, find out who I really am. And the conclusion I came to was that running and working out were the only things that actually made me happy. Pretty much everything else I could probably live without. Lifting weights and running were the only things I truly could not live without. They're like food and water. And I recently made a video of myself shadowboxing with 10-pound weights in both hands. Shadowboxing as part of my MMA training, mixed martial arts training. And a friend of mine on Facebook, so it's not a hater, there's actually a friend of mine who genuinely, I think, cares about my welfare, doesn't want me to injure myself. He told me that that's too much weight. I should shadowbox with 3 pounds or 5 pounds. And so it got me thinking, well, what is too much? Why does he think that's too much? He doesn't know my weight. He doesn't know my strength level. And why do I love to lift weights that people think are too much? I like to train for 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours. And in the past, I've trained for 4 or 5 hours per day. Not often now. I'm just too busy, but I've been known to do that. Some of my fitness friends and martial arts friends said that's overtraining, that's too much. But what is too much? Who determines what is too much for me? Is it me, or is it you, or is it quote unquote an expert? Is it someone who's never met me? That there's medical reports that would need to be done to determine what is too much. How can people say that? Um, so and I didn't do that because I had a goal of bodybuilding or anything like that. What I really was always trying to do, which may sound strange to an average person, but I'm not an average person. So what I was trying to do is extract the medicine, what shamans call the medicine, the healing power out of my physical fitness, the healing properties from the training. Um, and the way I see it is I'm developing my mind. The body is just an extension of the mind because the neurological network extends from the brain all the way to the fingertips. And the spirit connects to the brain neurology then runs through the whole body. So the way I saw it is I'm developing my spirit, actually. I'm developing my mind, but it's my spiritual mind. I actually never saw it as I'm building my body, even though clearly I was. And I always exercise to problem solve. I could literally see, so let's say there was certain problems I was solving in my business or whatever it was, and I would be running and I would see the churning, almost like a machine processing the problem with mathematical equations, and out would pop out the answer, the solution to the problem. And by the time I was done with my workout, I had a solution. So it gave me time and structure to organize my mind and create clear thoughts, free of negative emotional baggage, free of false ideas and ideologies. So even though other people think it's about looking good or growing muscles and all those things are nice, those are just byproducts of me developing a strong spiritual mind, being a cleansed vessel, as the monks and the nuns would say, being a cleansed vessel for the sacred. And I also made a video recently detailing the long list of health issues I had as a child and young adult, like the neurological damage that I had from PTSD and various traumas as a child. I had clinically died when I was a child and had NDEs or near death experiences. I had a concussion from a car accident when I was 12. I had a traumatic brain injury. I actually had to get stitches on my head from that. I had PTSD and CPTSD, which is post traumatic stress disorder and complex post traumatic stress disorder, since I was a child. Undiagnosed correctly for a long time because people didn't really understand it at that time very well. They thought it was a learning disability. It was not. I actually have very high IQ. I had the early stages of cancer in my 20s, and I had severe heavy metal poisoning, CFS or chronic fatigue syndrome, and adrenal fatigue, mold poisoning. You name it, it is a resume of health issues. Just one of them is difficult, but having so many of them, most people don't actually survive it. Most people end up in a wheelchair or dead or in a hospital bed, paralyzed basically. But I healed all of those issues. Every single one of the ones that I mentioned, I don't have them anymore. I do naturopathic and medical tests regularly, and objectively, by objective medical standards, I don't have any of these issues anymore. I healed them all with the strenuous physical fitness that I've done, as well as the holistic protocols that I do, and with shamanic energy medicine and my spiritual work. I form my own spirituality, my own training methods, and my own fitness training methods that help me to heal from every single health issue I had. It doesn't mean I'm perfect. I'm still always improving and healing myself of whatever's current. But those issues that I had as a child and as a young adult, I don't have those anymore. So my training methods successfully healed my issues. So who is anyone to say that it's too much or not right if it accomplished my goals? And how many people do you know who healed their own cancer and neurological damage, heavy metal poisoning, PTSD, and literally every single health issue I had, totally naturally, by the way, with no medications, no pharmaceuticals, no surgeries, no procedures from any hospitals, no hospital visits for those things, or anything from the conventional medical system. And I bet most people know no one like that. Most people run to their doctor or the ER and get drugs for any and every little thing. Most adults are on cocktails of medications and have had multiple surgeries, and maybe even organs are missing by the time they're 44. I'm 44. Most people, for most people, a cancer diagnosis immediately means chemo and surgery. They know no other way. And if another way is presented, they're too scared to think about it. They just go with what they were told by the quote unquote expert. But the statistics show that about 90% of people who get chemo, or maybe even more than 90, later develop cancer again. And the second time, it typically kills them. So the stats on chemo are not good. And most women, which is a separate issue, but most women are afraid of exercising, it seems like. They're afraid of muscle, afraid of lifting weights. They'd rather be overweight. It's very strange. The average American female over 18 is overweight or obese. Most women are on medications for mental health problems since their youth. Some women are on 3 to 5 or more psychiatric medications for mental health problems, and a cocktail of meds for a slew of other things, like diabetes and blood pressure, heart problems. Most adult women, due to the obesity and poor diet, have diabetes, high blood pressure, and they have no desire or plan to correct any of these. That's the average American adult female. So let me ask you this. Would you rather have a society full of women like that, mentally and physically sick, holding on to their sickness, or a society full of women like me? I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, not recreational, not pharmaceutical. Most things that modernity offers, clubs and bars, hookup culture, entertainment, restaurant, foodie culture, all that stuff, I have zero interest in, and I never had an interest in it. It's absolute garbage to me. You couldn't pay me to live like that. I have no tattoos. I have no piercings, not even my ears. I don't have pink or blue hair. I'm not a feminist or a girl boss. I have strong faith. I love God. I love my country. I train very hard every single day. I run and I lift weights. I train martial arts. I serve humanity. I don't bother anyone. I do no harm to anyone. I really try to help as many people as possible. So you tell me, who would you rather have? Would you rather have women like that who are very, very sick, or women like me who just like to lift a little heavy sometimes. And it made me wonder, okay, well, why do I like to lift heavy? I concluded maybe I'm a spiritual bodybuilder. Maybe that's what I am. Because from what I've seen, a lot of bodybuilders talk about how they often are told they're overtraining, lifting too heavy, training stupid. Mr. Arnold said he liked being a little overtrained. It gave him better definition, and obviously the achievement level is incredible. When it comes to investing time and energy in your business or career, making money, overworking is seen as a good thing. People that work 60, 100 hours a week on building their business and making money are seen as heroic, solid, committed, providing for their family. But when it comes to training, there's suddenly such a thing as overtraining and working too hard. Why the double standards? And I actually think there is a way a person can overtrain and do too much. But what is too much for one person is just right or not enough for another person. I don't always shadow box with 10-pound weights, not even often. I've made lots of videos of me shadow boxing just with no weight at all or with resistance bands. But sometimes it's nice challenge to get weight that is quote unquote too heavy and challenge myself specifically in that area. That was the point of the video, to get a heavy weight. In the military, they have to swim in the Arctic ice water. I have a friend who's a sergeant major. He was telling me recently that was part of their training. They made holes in the ice and made all the soldiers swim under the ice, under the water for a certain amount of time. Very unpleasant, to say the least, and people can die. Doesn't stop the military from getting warriors to train like that. The best militaries in the world make sure they train their soldiers in the extreme conditions of every kind. Freezing cold, extreme heat in the desert. They train in every type of weather and conditions imaginable and unimaginable to a regular civilian. And they would never tell you all the ways that they train in order to gain the advantage in that area. Do you think they worry about lifting too heavy or going quote unquote too far? I assure you they don't. They push the limits. They want to go too far because they want to stretch the intelligence of the person to be able to survive and even thrive in every condition possible. They want to break those limits. So come on, man. It's not like I had 4,000 pounds in each hand. I just had 10-pound dumbbells. It's not actually a lot. And I've also made videos where I was training in very hot weather. It was like 98 degrees outside. And that video is called MMA training and heat acclimatization. I've trained in extreme caloric deficit, either training fasted or training after doing OMAD, which is called 1 meal a day for at least 5 days. I believe I did it at least 50% of the time that month. And I trained every single day of that month. I've trained in sleep deprivation conditions. I've trained in literal snowstorm in Minnesota, one of the coldest states in the country, on the coldest winter they had in 10 years. I've trained in the rain. I've trained underwater when I had access to a pool. I didn't deliberately deprive myself of sleep. I didn't deliberately cause it to be 98 degrees. I didn't cause it to rain. I simply took advantage of those conditions. And that's what's real. That training in reality is what's important. Why would you wait for some kind of perfect conditions or only train in a perfectly air-conditioned gym on very cushy mats? What are you training for? You got to train who you are, where you're at, with what you have. I used to live in Texas. It was extremely hot. We used to run outside when I ran track. When we would run outside, I would run for 2-3 hours a day in this extreme over 100-degree heat. So that's what's real. They can't not have that kind of heat in Texas. They have to train with what they have. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I've trained with women who are smaller than me, who are the same size as me, and with men who are almost double my weight and size. So the point is, I'm not training for a spa experience. I'm not training to have a bit of fun with my friends, to build a bit of muscle that looks good in a selfie on social media. I hate the plastic, narcissistic culture of social media with a deep passion. And that's why for years I never made any videos of me training. Even though I've been training hard for over 30 years, I didn't want to participate in modernity in a way. I didn't want to participate in that plastic social media culture. That's why I went to the monastery in the first place, to get away from all that. But now training is my monastery. I go into training the way other people go to church or temple. It's where I commune with the sacred. So the way I train is between me and God. You could think like lifting heavy is my sacrament. I'm kind of being facetious, but maybe that's what it is. Um, but in a bigger way, in a more practical way, I'm training for war, physical battle as well as spiritual battle. The best way to do that is to challenge yourself with extreme conditions. Sometimes, not all the time, sometimes, as they arise. The goal is to have a well-rounded training as a universal warrior, able to intelligently, calmly carry out any task that is necessary under any conditions, internal or external. By internal conditions, I mean emotional, thoughts, whatever's going on inside you. Whatever the external conditions are, is obvious: weather, terrain, etc., other people. But those external conditions can evoke internal conditions or responses. You have to be able to put all that aside and carry out a task intelligently. And all societies need people like me, male and female. We're called warriors. I was raised in a very traditional culture, and traditional men want women to be soft. They only care about one thing. It seems like that women can produce children and raise children, and that is all great. That's fine. There will always be women who will, where all they want is to have kids and be with their families. Most women are like that, but I'm different. I'm a spiritual warrior. It's how I'm wired. It's my original design. It's how God made me. It will never change. This is my service to the world. So everything that I've created, everything that I've offered, there's a higher purpose to all of that. And try to see it, because then you can appreciate what it is that I'm bringing. Rather than seeing that it doesn't fit into a box, try to see how it is exactly what it needs to be, how it is of service in exactly the form that it is. And I do extreme conditioning sometimes, not all the time. Nature and life provides these conditions. I just simply take advantage of them. And I have designed my own training that I know I need, that feeds my soul. Lifting a little too heavy sometimes, running a bit too much, training an extra hour or two, feeds my soul and lights up the fire in my heart. I simply love it. If it's not what you want to do, if it's not what's helpful to you, then don't train like that. But it's what I love to do. It's what makes me happy. I don't tell anyone else to train like me. As a matter of fact, most of my clients are not like me. They're not interested in any kind of bodybuilding or cage fighting. They might be interested in martial arts, a little bit in self-defense, but certainly not cage fighting, certainly not any kind of professional fighting. They're working to heal their own health challenges and win some sort of spiritual battle within their soul. And everyone has a spiritual battle within their soul. If you have a soul, there's a spiritual battle in your soul that you got to win. Because if you don't win, the dark forces win. And so for me, the training that I have is also an opportunity to train and win the spiritual battle. And when it comes to my clients, I encourage people to just train with their own body weight as much as possible. Keep things simple. Master yourself before you add any weight. It's not really necessary to train with a weight like that for most people. But for me, it is. And I'm very clear about that. It's not for everybody. I've been training intensively for over 30 years. I didn't suddenly start to lift weights and train 2 hours a day at 44 years old overnight. It built up over time, organically, slowly. In the videos, I'm showing that it can be done, and that it has made me better, more healthy, more strong, more stable, more consistent, more disciplined, more stoic, better emotional regulation. And at 44 years old, people tell me I look like I'm 30. I recently ran a 17-second 100-meter dash. And this is after a 2.5-hour intensive training at the gym with weightlifting, as well as running a mile. outside in the heat. So this sprint was the last thing I did in my workout. So I was pretty tired already. And I looked up the statistics, and that puts me in the top 1 to 2% of the population in my age group. Only 1 to 2% of the population can run a 14-second 100-meter dash. And like I said, I was already pretty tired, and this was about 84 degrees outside. So I'm pretty certain I can run about a 13 to 14-second 100-meter dash when I'm not tired. And what does that put me in the top 1 to a half to 1% of the population? I mean, how many adults even do sprints, much less run at a speed that is, maybe it's not Olympic level, but that's not shabby for a person who healed their own cancer and healed a slew of other health issues. That's not bad, actually. And when I do fitness tests, I test as very fit, like in body and these other types of applications. So if someone thinks my training is quote unquote too much, but yet I get all these results and I healed all my own serious health conditions by training like this, then maybe more people who have these kinds of health conditions should train like me. Take a few pages out of my book. When I was a kid having chronic low body pain, I've had supposed experts and conventional docs tell me to stop running and stop exercising and do surgery and get on meds, but they never could identify the cause of anything. I would ask, well, why do I have this chronic pain? They never had an answer. They were just dishing out conveyor belt solutions. So I'd ask them, how do you know that that is the right solution if you don't know what the actual problem is? You don't know the cause. How do you know it's the solution? They had zero answer. They would literally just walk away from me when I asked them questions. Pathetic. If you're a doctor with a degree, you're supposed to be an expert, and you can't answer a basic question like that. Sorry, you're an effing idiot. No respect. So I never listened to any of that garbage because running always made me feel better. When I would run, I had no pain. It was obvious to me. And the more I ran, the less pain I had. It's when I was not running and not exercising is when I had pain. They just ignored those facts. They had no answers for that. They pretended like those things were not happening as I was healing myself with fitness in front of them. They were pretending like it was not happening. So I've seen all this gaslighting bullshit my whole life, and I just don't give it any energy. By now, I have a highly attuned bullshit detector. When I hear any smallest amount of bullshit, I run the other way. I don't even need to think about it. And if I'm not sure what to do, I just do the opposite of whatever bullshit advice it was, and I figure out my way from there. And I typically find all of my own answers. I do research. I'm good at doing research, and I'm good at finding my own solutions and my clients and solutions for my clients. I'm not trying to be different. I was never trying to go out of my way to be different. I just am. I have always gone my own way in all things by not listening to supposed quote unquote expert advice and by always going my own way and listening to my own heart and my higher power on all things is how I healed everything that ailed me and achieved the level of success I have. Because I have over 165 5-star reviews and success stories on my site. A lot of these people tell me I saved their life. Literally, they were dead in surgery, dead, clinically dead. That's a report. That's a medical report. It shows they were clinically dead. And I was working on them at that moment, doing shamanic energy work and prayer work, and they came back to life. And someone say, well, that's a miracle. It is, but with God, everything is possible. See, I always knew that with God, everything is possible. And I actually did a video interview with a client, and he talks about the story, how, of his healing story. I'll link it in the description. Or I had clients who were dying or almost dead or just very severely disabled, a lot of health issues. And the holistic protocols and the fitness training that we did in the program helped them to recover their health, their life, their mental health. So what I do works. Proof of concept is there in spades. I also have a lot of stories, case studies that I never collected their review. I never collected their case because when I was younger, I didn't really know I was supposed to do that. There's hundreds of case studies that I'm yet to commit to some kind of video or or publishing a book or something. Incredible stories of healing. Because where there's God, there's a way. That's just the best way I can put it. And I've been working with clients for over 20 years, so I have a lot of case studies. And I see how much they have improved over the years, and my clients have improved over the years of working with me and implementing the protocols. Even after they finish working with me, they solve the problems, but they continue to implement the protocols. They continue to improve. Versus the people who never got my coaching, they never got the holistic protocols, they didn't start to exercise, they went downhill. And some of these people are right now dead, unfortunately. So if you need help with your health and fitness goals, and you need help overcoming your challenges to achieve your goals, reach out. I live to serve. I love to serve, and I love helping other people recover who are still struggling. Link for contact is in the description. You can book a free 15-minute call with me. You can tell me all the things that are going on for you that you need help with, and I'll tell you how my programs can help you. Stay blessed and strength.